Good morning, everyone. I came today. Good morning from Sao Paulo. It's still early in the morning. It's about 7:30 in the morning. So before I head outside, I decided to tape this video. Throughout my career, I had to work and deal with adolescents and teens. I have dealt with American teens, and I've dealt with Brazilian teens, and I grew up as a teen in Morocco, teen and adolescent in Morocco. So, and besides that, I came to speak today based also on a class that I took about child and adolescent psychology. And because also I have a teenager in my house who is my son Antonio, and I am very involved in his upbringing. And I have never been, I've always experienced adolescents and teens on the outside, and I have lived my own teenagehood and my own adolescence, but now I get to see it from the perspective of a mother. And it's all good to be because I get to notice everything that I saw in others, and everything that I had read about in classes in class. So it's very interesting. So most teenagers and adolescents go in every society through struggle and risk, and they're exposed to many risks in the society. Depend with the difference in the difference in the level of risk and risk and struggle. First, before I start talking about the risks that teenagers and adolescents are exposed to and their struggle, I have to specify at what age teenagehood and adolescence starts. Nowadays, teenagehood, it starts as early as 9 for boys and girls, and it extends until the age of 14. And adolescence for boys and girls starts from 14 and goes until 18. Puberty. First, we're going to talk about puberty, which goes, like I said, for boys and girls from 9 to 14. It's mainly characterized with physiological and biological changes. So mothers, teachers, professors will notice in boys and girls a lot of physiological and biological changes. Boys will grow taller. They will have hair in their body. They will notice growth in their hair. Their voice might change, and their body odor changes also. They start sweating, which they don't experience when they are younger. So their sweat actually starts having an odor. When they are very little boys, they don't have this kind of odor in their body. So it starts really in puberty. And one important fact is that in puberty, boys tend to hang out mostly with boys, and they survive in harmony. They survive in complete harmony. So there is no competition among them about boys. It's mainly boys playing with boys. And if they experience fights, it's fights among boys. They really continue surviving side by side in complete harmony. There is no competition over girls, who will get the most beautiful girl in the school, who will have the most beautiful girlfriend, who is the most popular in school based on his popularity amongst girls. So it's really they survive, and they live in a complete boyhood harmony. So this completely changes in adolescence. When adolescence starts, boys tend to start paying attention to their facial image and to their body image. So you will find them spending hours in front of the mirror, looking at their face, basically their face, and they either tend to fall in narcissism and to fall in love with themselves, or they start totally hating their developing insecure hating now developing insecurities over their face. Either they find themselves ugly, less attractive than other boys. Comparison comes into play, so that's where the insecurity comes in. Body image also plays a role depending really on the society. There are societies that pay close attention to boys and girls being extremely thin, and thinness is the characteristic of is the trait of beautiful people. And some boys and girls start starving themselves. They eat very, very, very poorly. They don't get all the nutrients and vitamins, so they become really preoccupied with their image. And also girls come into play, so competition, their relationship with boys becomes a little bit more difficult, and the competition becomes because of girls. Who is the boy in school who is capable of hanging out with the most beautiful girl in the school? And they start to drift away from relationships with boys, and you will find them hanging out and spending most of their times with girls. Other risks, and that's adolescents are exposed to in adolescence. It's exposure. It's drugs, cigarettes, and alcohol. So depending on their anxiety and desire to fit in among their peers and to look modern and popular, they start experimenting drugs and cigarettes and alcohol. And that's where really the risk is. So school officials, teachers, mothers, parents have always to keep an eye on them, and they have to increase awareness so that teenagers will not drift away in this direction. Because most of the teenagers who started experimenting drugs was because they wanted to look hype, and they wanted to look rich, and wanted to look modern, and then it backfires on them. So whether it is in Morocco, or whether it is in the United States, whether it is in Europe, whether it's in Brazil, I think what I notice it's all similar. It's all similar. There is really no difference between adolescents who grew up in that society or in this society, on the West or on the East. So it's really similar. So that's I think that's what it is. So if you have a teenager or an adolescent at home, I hope you will find this video very helpful, because sometimes I meet some mothers who are really totally lost. They don't understand the changes of behavior in their child, because they don't have any kind of information about this kind of changes, and most of them, the only recourse they have is that they have to ask the help of a psychologist or a health professional. So the awareness and education of mother is key here. And when you are aware of you have an explanation, a scientific explanation, and some education about the changes that your child or your student or your neighbor is experiencing, you will develop more tolerance and more understanding, and you will be equipped with more patience to deal with the outbursts of adolescence. Okay, so see you later, and I hope you'll enjoy this video.